reach me, but I was not able to meet all of you. That time there was no time, and then since yesterday also I have been receiving text messages from several of you wanting to meet me. So therefore I thought let me have this opportunity mainly to sort of have this kind of chit chat, as you can say, with all of you. Now let me again mention very clearly, and as I did the other day in Mumbai, that when I met your colleagues in Mumbai, that I do not propose to make any major policy announcements or anything of that sort. The main idea was to just meet you and just have a chit chat and use the opportunity also of mentioning a few points. Today I had a meeting with the MSME associations earlier today, and the purpose was mainly to interact and get their viewpoint about the current state of the functioning of the MSMEs and the implementation of the restructuring scheme which the Reserve Bank has announced earlier. You are aware about the restructuring scheme which has been announced, and also the MSMEs do have other issues relating to their functioning, some of which are in the domain of Reserve Bank, most of which is in the domain of the government and in the domain of the banks so far as their commercial functioning is concerned. So it was a very good interaction. I had a 2-hour interaction with the MSMEs, and we have noted down the points which were made by them, and we will examine them internally. While issuing the MSME circular also, we have pointed out in the circular, we have said that the banks have been asked to look at the viability of individual MSMEs before making them applicable to the individual MSMEs. The effort is to, of course, see that maximum number of units do get the benefit, but then again, while extending the benefit, the viability aspect also has to be considered, because without going into the viability aspect, obviously it would not be possible to implement a restructuring scheme. So the banks have been tasked to place the matter before their board and come out with guidelines to examine the viability of individual proposals and also the monitoring of the performance of such restructured assets and units. So we do hope that the banks and the MSME units will work together to see that the scheme is implemented in letter and spirit, in a manner that maximum units do benefit, and also in a manner that the required principles of viability, etc., are also examined. The second point I would like to mention is that tomorrow I am meeting the NBFCs in Mumbai, and the representatives of the NBFCs will meet me and my colleagues in Mumbai. We will have a detailed interaction. And over the last several months, you would be aware that there has been a lot of discussion and a lot of views and points of view have been expressed about the issue of liquidity which is faced by the NBFCs. So tomorrow's meeting we will utilize the opportunity to get a perspective from the NBFCs. Earlier I have had personally meetings with the public sector and private sector banks. I also had a very detailed meeting separately with the cooperative banks, because the issues and the problems of cooperative sector are different from the commercial banks or the scheduled commercial banks, as you know them. So I'm looking forward to our interaction with the NBFCs and try to understand their perspective on various issues. Thirdly, I would like to mention that the liquidity issue has been mentioned time and again. I have got several inputs over the last almost about a month that I assumed charge in Reserve Bank. I have had interaction with several stakeholders, with several players, with banks, with both public and private sector banks, and we have a sense of the current liquidity situation. And we have already, after I took over, we have announced, the Reserve Bank has announced, OMO of, additional OMO of 60,000 crores. That is the OMO open market operations that was increased by 10,000 crores in the month of December, and for January we have announced OMO operation, that is open market operations of 50,000 crores. So we do believe that the liquidity requirement of the economy and financial institutions are, to a great extent they are met. Now, while dealing with the issue of liquidity, I would also like to say that this is something which the Reserve Bank is constantly monitoring and will take steps whenever there is a need to deal with the liquidity deficit if it is noticed. At the same time, I must also add that the Reserve Bank would not like a situation where liquidity becomes a kind of a loose money. Any infusion of liquidity will have to be very carefully considered and has to be need-based. So therefore, the caution and care has to be exercised by the Reserve Bank of India so that excess liquidity, which sometimes has certain adverse consequences, that is not created. But I can mention that the liquidity needs of the economy are regularly, constantly being monitored, and whatever steps are required, it will be taken. We have over the last 1 month or so also taken other decisions. You are aware, the Reserve Bank has constituted a committee to study the economic capital framework of the Reserve Bank under the chairmanship of Dr. Bimal Jalan, and we have Dr. Rakesh Mohan as its vice chairman, and it has got other eminent members, other eminent persons who are its members. Similarly, we have also constituted a committee to study the issues and matters relating to the MSMEs under the chairmanship of former chairman of the SEBI, that is Sri UK Sinha. That committee has also just last week been constituted. And I would just conclude by saying that the current focus of the bank is, of course, all aspects where RBI is required to focus are very much on the table, and we are focusing on them. But one issue which engages our attention almost on a daily basis is the state of the NPAs and the health of public sector banks. Our financial stability report and the trends in Indian banking, both these reports, we have given out the figures which were released in the last week of December, and there is definitely improvement noticed in reduction of the NPA levels of the banks as a whole and the public sectors in particular. There is considerable amount of improvement, but the improvements will have to be sustained if the banks have to fulfill their responsibilities, and if the banks have to become, some of the banks again have to become healthy. We are also looking at, in consultation with the various stakeholders, we are also looking at what kind of governance reforms can be brought about in the working of the banks without, again, let me say that we do not want to create a framework which imposes restrictions that restrict or that throttle the functioning of the banks. So without throttling, without in any manner sort of putting impediments on the working of the banks, allowing them sufficient commercial flexibility and creating an environment where not only come out of the NPA but also do grow. We do realize that governance reforms are an important component of the revival of the public sector banks. Several steps have been taken, I must mention, several steps have been taken by the Reserve Bank of India, several steps have been taken by the Government of India, but there is still, there are some areas which are engaging our attention. So I will stop here, and you will excuse me, I have a flight to catch, so I'll take very few questions. I'll just take very few questions. I'll just come.
So there have been reports that the RBI is likely to pay the government interim dividend about 30,000 to 40,000 crores this year. So how much truth is there to that report?
Well, there have been reports, I also read about it. As and when RBI takes any decision on any matter, you will come to know about it. You will come to know about it.
After your 2-hour meeting with MSME, what is the basic sense you are taking in the condition of MSME? What's the RBI's?
No, I think the mood is certainly quite confident. The mood among the MSMEs is certainly quite confident, and I think they are looking forward. Many of the points which they mentioned relate to, basically they lie in the domain of the government, and the Secretary MSME Ministry also participated in the meeting. The Deputy Governor Reserve Bank also participated in the meeting, but mood looks fairly confident. Yes, please. I'll come slowly. Yes.
So just on a different issue, we're getting to hear that probably the next meeting of the Board of Financial Supervision is scheduled for 12th, and possibly the PCA framework that has been under discussion for some time. This is going to go forward. The government recently has decided to infuse around 41,000 crores worth of additional recap bonds in PSPs. Anything further that we can expect in terms
Well, as I said here, as and when Reserve Bank takes any decision on any issue, you will come to know about it. I cannot jump the gun and prejudge the issues. Yes, please. I'll come. Yeah.
Just in addition to the first question, is there a demand from the government regarding interim dividends? Have you got any intimation from the government? And if yes, what is the view that the RBI has taken as of now?
No, I think I explained that. As and when RBI, a lot of correspondence goes on between the government and the Reserve Bank. A lot of discussions do take place. Now, whether there is an individual letter or not, that is not really relevant. But I can tell you that as and when a decision is taken, Reserve Bank will not delay announcing the decision. Yes, please. I'll come.
क्या गवर्नमेंट ने आपको ये कहा है कि आप बैंक्स को एक टारगेट दें कि वो कब तक एनपीए को लेकर, जो आपने अभी बात करी है कि वो एनपीए से बाहर है, इसको लेकर क्या आपको कोई टारगेट दिया है?
नहीं जी, मैं बिल्कुल साफ कहना चाहता हूँ, ऐसा कोई टारगेट रिजर्व बैंक को नहीं दिया गया है। और मैंने जैसा मैंने कहा था मेरे फर्स्ट प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस जो कि पिछले महीने 12 दिसंबर को मैंने किया था, इमीडिएटली आफ्टर टेकिंग ओवर, गवर्नमेंट से ऐसा कोई सुझाव नहीं आया है। कई सारे मुद्दे हैं जिसके ऊपर गवर्नमेंट और रिजर्व बैंक का डिस्कशंस चलते रहते हैं, बट फाइनल डिसीजन जो होता है वो रिजर्व बैंक टेक्स द फाइनल डिसीजन ऑन मैटर्स विच आर इन इट्स ओन डोमेन आफ्टर कंसिडरिंग ऑल द एस्पेक्ट्स। सो रिजर्व बैंक will listen to everybody, Reserve Bank will interact with everybody including the government, but the final decision will be taken by the Reserve Bank in an objective manner to the best of its judgment.
You have again brought in the MSME restructure scheme. This is like after the February circular where NPAs were like one day now. Do you think it's a retrograde step in some sense that RBI is backing down on the whole NPA?
You see, it's a value judgment. I don't want to go into a value judgment whether it is retrograde or progressive. These are adjectives. I don't want to go into that. We examined the situation very carefully, and as the press note which was released that day, it said very clearly that the MSMEs have an important role in the economy, and considering the current situation, Reserve Bank, in its wisdom, after considering all aspects, thought it prudent in the overall interest of the economy, in the interest of the banks, in the interest of the MSMEs to come out with those guidelines. Arup, yeah.
Sir, one issue that you have inherited from your predecessors is the issue of pension of the RBI employees. So how do you plan to go about dealing with that? And secondly, how much will you pay the government before March?
Well, the second point, how much we will pay, as and when a decision is taken, that is a decision which has to be taken by the board, and as and when any decision for that matter is taken, you will come to know. And pension, have you joined the Reserve Bank or something? Yeah, Lakshman, please. Yeah. I'll come.
सर, मेरे दो छोटे-छोटे सवाल हैं। एक सवाल के प्रधानमंत्री ने 59 लोन देने के लिए अभी पार्लियामेंट रिप्लाई के मुताबिक 37,000 करोड़ रुपए का इन प्रिंसिपल अप्रूवल हुआ, लेकिन सिर्फ 14,000 करोड़ रुपए डिस्पर्स हुआ। इन प्रिंसिपल अप्रूवल डिस्पर्समेंट में 50% से ज्यादा आता है, इसको कैसे दूर करेंगे? और सेकंड चीज नकदी को लेकर के,
किसको?
नकदी, लिक्विडिटी को लेकर, लिक्विडिटी की समस्या आपके हिसाब से क्या पूरे सिस्टम में है या फिर कुछ चुनिंदा सेक्टर में?
इसी जो पहला पॉइंट आपने कहा अबाउट दिस प्रधानमंत्री जी का जो अनाउंसमेंट था, वो आई थिंक द कंसर्न मिनिस्ट्री जो है उसको मॉनिटर कर रहे हैं रेगुलरली, तो उसके बारे में मैं आई डोंट हैव द डिटेल्स ऑल्सो, सो इट विल नॉट बी करेक्ट ऑन माई पार्ट। जो कंसर्न मिनिस्ट्री है, एमएसएमई मिनिस्ट्री और फाइनेंस मिनिस्ट्री का जो फाइनेंशियल सर्विसेज डिपार्टमेंट है, वो उसको मॉनिटर कर रहे हैं, मेरे को जितना जानकारी है। और दूसरा क्वेश्चन आपका था, हाँ, लिक्विडिटी जो है, देखिए मैं इसमें सिर्फ यही कहना चाहता हूं कि वी आर कॉन्स्टेंटली मॉनिटरिंग. कोई सेक्टर आई डोंट वांट टू मेंशन बिकॉज किसी भी सेक्टर यहाँ पे मेंशन करना कि दे आर सरप्लस और दे आर दिस इज अ मार्केट रिलेटेड इंफॉर्मेशन. सो देयरफॉर एनीथिंग आई से ऑन दिस मैटर ड्यूरिंग मार्केट आवर्स has other implications, so I will refrain. Ruchi, yeah.
The Parliamentary Standing Committee on Finance, sir, in one of their reports have said that the norms for higher capital adequacy for PSU banks is an unwarranted step. The government has been asking for it for a very long time, that these norms be brought down. What's to do with the RBI?
No, we are examining we have got a copy of the report submitted by the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Finance to the Parliament. We are going through it. We are going through it.
What is your overall assessment on the economy, looking at the fall in oil prices and current inflation?
I think overall sense of economy के बारे में बात करेंगे. So I think I'll conclude. Yeah, Disika, yeah. आ रहा.
There have been announcements on farm loan waivers by various states, and it's expected that the central may also come up with something. How do you view these farm loan waivers?
You see, it is all related to the fiscal space that the state governments have. Elected governments have, the elected governments have the constitutional mandate to take decisions with regard to their finance. But every state government, I must mention, before taking decisions on any kind of farm loan waivers, they have to very carefully examine their fiscal space, and if there is fiscal space, it's for the government to decide, but it is also for the governments, individual governments, to examine whether they have the fiscal space to meet the requirements and release the money to the banks immediately then and there. But secondly, I would like to say that any generalized kind of write-off, it's not a new point I am saying, any generalized kind of write-off obviously has adverse effect on the credit culture and future credit behavior of the borrowers. आई थिंक उसके बारे में सरकार ने फाइनेंस मिनिस्ट्री इकोनॉमिक अफेयर्स डिपार्टमेंट ने क्लैरिफिकेशन दे दिया है, तो उसके आगे और मैं कुछ नहीं कहना चाहूँगा. आई थिंक आप मेरे को मेरे को यू विल हैव टू एक्सक्यूज मी, आई हैव अ फ्लाइट टू टेक. थैंक यू वेरी मच. आई विल अगेन मीट ऑल ऑफ यू.
इस तरह के रिपोर्ट्स आ रहे हैं कि आरबीआई मुद्रा लोन के ऊपर भी काफी चिंतित है. क्या एनपीए बढ़ रहे हैं मुद्रा लोन पे, और दूसरा कि क्या इस वर्ष के आखिर तक कुछ बैंक जो पीसीए में है वो बाहर आ सकते हैं?
ये जब इसी बारे में जब कोई भी डिसीजन लिया जाएगा आपको बताएंगे. सिद्धार्थ,
relationship between government and RBI, because the predecessor was at a very low point, and there were a lot of differences, especially on two issues: economic capital framework as well as the governance reform being proposed by the government. How has been your relationship in last almost a month? Your company?
I think I have replied to this question on the first day of my press conference. Thank you very much. Thank you.